All right, ladies, gents. We just gents here, but we are back in effect. We are RegalRadio.com, War Media, and we are the Running with War show, giving you the best in basketball knowledge and conjecture. That's that's a fancy word for talk for all of y'all. We don't think about words so much, but yeah, this is Kyle Means with my guys Drew and Josh here and connecting as usual, connecting on this off day for the finals. Between games 3 and 4, taking in everything that's we're going to take in everything that's gone on so far because I think our last show was before game one, just before game one. So we've seen these 3 games thus far, and well, I'll get you guys' opinion on how you think the series is and how you think it's going to play out. Given these early results, but that's going to be pretty exciting. We got some. We'll have some talk on the Nigeria upset of Team USA from Saturday, as well as another Saturday event, the last Sky game from the first half of the season. Pretty pretty competitive game they played against Washington at Wintrust Arena, and a pretty packed house too. We'll talk about what went into that. A lot of energy that was at that game. And our guy Chris was there. I'm trying to. Hopefully, he'll be on the show. He's not here at the moment, but we'll see. Also, another hope. We got 3 and a couple. You're only supposed to have like one possible if you're playing spades. We got like 2 possibles. So that's what doing a show is like with black folks. But we got 3 and 2 possibles. Our guest, another guest, looking at having tonight is Sherrod Blakely. Who's a veteran NBA writer. Has worked for the papers in Boston. He's contributing now to Bleacher Report and uh, Ebony Magazine and other places like that. So he should be coming on. He's, from what I have expressed with him, and he's expressed with me. He should be coming on at about 15 minutes after 7. But as of now, it's just us 3 fellas. So I don't know. Let's get it kicked. Let's get it popping. Um, what are you guys' thoughts on these first 3 games of the finals? Suns up 2-1. They took the 2 in their home court to start the series. Sunday was a pretty big role reversal. Milwaukee. Although at first, the Suns did look pretty strong early on, but in the second quarter, quite a bit changed. Milwaukee finally started to assert itself in the post in the way that we sort of seen in the uh, past couple series with them where they sort of experiment a little bit too much in their first 2 games to their detriment. But by the time they get to about game 3 or 4, so they're sort of in a place where they want to be, and then they sort of fight for the rest of the series. But they as we get they were pretty impressive though in game 3 yesterday, winning by 20. And me and Drew's picks are still they're not looking so bad at the moment, but picking the Bucks and 7 is a little risky already. It was a little risky off top, but we still got some hope for our picks. So, but anyway, as far as what we've seen so far, what are you guys' thoughts?
I think for me it was just aside from my pick looking pretty kind of nice right now.
But you had the Suns at 6, right?
I had something for 7.
Oh, 7. Okay.
I had him at 7. So I think Chris had him at 6. But
Okay.
The Suns, I think I just look at it as both teams are doing their jobs for the most part. They've taken advantage of their home court games so far. And but at the end of the day, it boils down to who is going to be the most consistent. We know out of both of those teams, the Suns have been the most consistent when it comes to playing their side, continuing with their cycles and playing the style of ball that they need to play in order to win the games they need to win. As Kendrick Perkins would say, the Bucks are the dumbest team in the world, just because they don't always stay consistent with their offensive plan, especially when it comes to them sticking to what they know best. I think Game 3 was a prime example of what that looks like when it came to actually them being consistent from the beginning of the game to the end with their game plan, especially when it comes to the play of Giannis, him playing in the post for the most part and in that painted area for pretty much the entire game offensively. Pretty much opened the floor for Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday to play at least at a good enough level for them to get to that win. And then obviously you're at home, so the role players of that Bucks team, came through pretty fire, and you can never dismiss the fire of Bobby Portis in the way that he brings heat to the court to make an impact in a home court game. So none of this was surprising to me. It was kind of expected, but at the end of the day, in all these games, the constant thing for me has been consistency. The Suns controlled the tempo; they controlled offense, both ends on the floor in the first two games. The Bucks did it in Game 3. Whoever could be the most consistent throughout the rest of this series is pretty much going to be the winner of this championship. And obviously that's still up in the air, but that's for the most part going to be the most consistent theme that's to take place throughout this series in order to pick a true winner.
Drew, for you go, I'm going to say something real quick about the coverage. And you mentioned Kendrick Perkins, and I think the whole ESPN crew in particular, the network guys, not necessarily the ABC people, but the ESPN people, are just been dragging, Milwaukee. And I think they've been acting like, they haven't seen this team throughout the playoffs pretty much do the same thing that they've been doing in this series in regards to the way that they come out in the series. And to that degree, it's not the smartest thing to come out and give the first two games away, but it's like Giannis has also played his ass off every game in the series. It's not like they haven't, especially in particular in this series, they haven't necessarily gone against their nature. They just haven't played the way that they probably absolutely should play, or the way that it's not as drastic as like when they shot like 53s against the Nets in those first two games or something like that. They just, they've had Giannis, and really their problem has been that in the first two games that Holiday and Middleton come through the way that they should have. And in Game 3, they did. They were efficient, they made plays, and they scored. And they got more from the roster beyond that, like Portis and Connaughton and stuff. And that's to be expected when they come home. So all this, again, with ESPN, they're the worldwide leader in overstatement. We saw today what SAS is on. He's letting his mouth run away with him in other places, but he's saying too much, and Wilbon is saying too much, and then Kendrick's got to come along and one up them as well. So it's like I just think the way that Milwaukee's been depicted in the series it's just been a bit too much, and it's been people were trying to put them in the hole permanently after these first two games. This didn't make sense to me, and now that they played the way that they played in Game 3, and now it's like, oh, okay, but we do have to see how they're going to deal with success. Can they continue on? I believe they can, and that's one of the reasons why their ability to defend and their ability to control the paint on both ends of the court is probably the main reason why I was willing to pick them in 7. I also think they're not going to lose again on their home court. The real challenge for them going forward is what game, if any, can they squeeze out in Phoenix? Can they? If they can do that, then that's the that's the key to them winning the series. I don't say beyond that. I don't think they're going to lose in Milwaukee going forward.
Yeah, to your point, Giannis has been the headline of these finals, even though they're down 2-1. Not knowing
straight 40 and 10 games, man.
Yeah, you see the graphics, numbers being compared to Jordan, being compared to LeBron and KD. This dude is serious, man. For all the naysayers or the people that want to critique his game endlessly and say that he's not a 1A. This guy's putting in work. He's putting Milwaukee on his back, especially those first two games where Middleton and Holiday struggle so much. So that's been the main thing for me. In addition to in those first games, just like it's just like you couldn't do anything to them to throw them off rhythm. Like they looked like they had an answer for everything. They really just were surgical offensively. Like whatever Milwaukee wanted to try to take away, they had a counter to. They had a counter to the counter. Like it was masterful the way they played those first two games.
And that's their advantage when you look at their ability to set their offense. They have one of the all-time floor generals at their disposal, I should say, and they have the best perimeter player in the series on their side as well. Although he had a very bad game yesterday, Devin Booker. So, just jumping that in.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I think now that we see how well Giannis is moving on that knee, I think it's going to come down to Middleton and Holiday. What can you get from them on a night-to-night basis? How well can the Bucks defend? Whether they're going to play Brook Lopez up a little bit higher on the drop, which I think is probably the best option for them, rather than trying to switch and just letting CP3 or Booker just cook on Portis or Lopez out on the perimeter. So it could go either way. But like I said, I've like you, Kyle, I've got the Bucks in 7 because I think that they can make the plays they need to. I still feel like Middleton and Holiday will give them enough in addition to Giannis, and that they can eventually cut off the water, enough to squeak out 3 more wins.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like you say, the plays, I would say more specifically the stops, but they could score too. They showed, Sunday they could score too. And, if Giannis keeps playing the way that he's been playing, it's going to be an all-time great series for him. And he's definitely on the road to at least an MVP if the Bucks win. So, yeah, I want to see how, like I said, there's going to be a pivotal game, of course, in coming up on Wednesday, game 4. How is Booker going to respond? How are the Suns, rotation players going to respond? And, how is Milwaukee going to deal with their success? How are they going to, keep pushing and keep the pedal down, or they're going to, let up? I think the great thing about Milwaukee is that they have they have the energy about them at home that's kept up by the crowd and stuff. So, that's going to be at least get them in the door. But it seemed like, I saw, looking at some clips and stuff that they were in game 3, they were almost a little bit too charged up coming in at the beginning of game 3. But they sort of shook it off, though, especially Giannis, because that I was sort of moving around at the beginning of the game yesterday, and I didn't keep it, but he had to sit down early in the first quarter. You remember that, Drew?
Yeah. I just remember. I don't know if we ever confirmed it or if anybody ever confirmed it, but just looking at him, it's just like he had to kind of just settle himself down.
Yeah.
He was breathing hard, and he got up and kind of walked to the tunnel, walked back and forth, had to kind of calm himself down, which speaks to the gravity of the moment in the first, finals in that city since the 70s. So,
yeah.
it's a big moment, and he's living up to it. On a side note, anybody that wants to criticize these playoffs or these finals, and wishes we had LeBron or Durant or Steph Curry in it, just look at how many narratives have changed in these playoffs, from Trae Young to Luka Doncic to Paul George to Giannis. Like, if there's anything to measure how spectacular these playoffs have been, I think that's definitely the direction that people can look to.
Yeah, that was just I saw the stupid tweet, and I usually got love for the Dan Le Batard's crew and stuff, but you never know too when they just being snarky. But they had like a poll asking is the worst finals ever. I'm like, come on, man. You if you was to ask that, really, then you have no memory, because there's 07, there's that. Really, that as exciting as it wound up being towards the end, that Spurs Pistons one wasn't that great. I mean, I could rule off a bunch. The both of the ones where the Nets played the Lakers weren't nothing because they weren't competitive. There's a lot of finals with just there's basically no competition involved. The one a couple of years ago, I mean, like the last two Cleveland Golden State ones were whack.
Yeah.
Like I think Cleveland won like one game combined in those years, like 2 years. Like, so it's like, come on, man. Just if you want to be a star effort, just say you a star effort. Just you don't care about the game, man. That's all you say. Yeah. But or if you be in a homer, like they probably mad because Miami got beat by the Bucks and stuff, and they couldn't get around the Bucks this year. So I mean, I could see that, but this is far from the worst finals that there's ever going to
be. Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you're a real sports fan and a real NBA fan, you should be happy about the fact that this new blood and this new young generation of blood is taking over the reins. Like, obviously, we gotta appreciate LeBron, we appreciate Kevin Durant, we appreciate the Steph Currys, we appreciate those players and those teams that were in their primes, really giving us the ultimate finals we could ever ask for. But at the same time, you're talking about a Giannis that's on the rise. You're talking about a Devin Booker who's on the rise. You're talking about potential dynasties out of both these teams that are emerging in ways that, for the longest is pretty much well overdue. And the fact that we're getting that now, and even then, still seeing the same type of quality products of dominance and in some cases flair and things like that. So watching these skills come to life in the way that they are, if anything, this should be you should be very excited and happy of the fact that this is the direction the league is actually going into. So that
we're actually seeing that direction now.
Yeah,
like at some point you got to have that turnover. And it's, LeBron is not going to be going to finals for the next 10 years. Durant isn't, and all these other guys, we're seeing, and Booker and Giannis particularly, they could be two of the stars who define the NBA championship series for the next 10 years. So, yeah, that's what, like you say, Josh, that's what should get you excited as a ball fan, as a basketball, as a real lover of basketball. That should be what gets you excited. And on top of that, you got the story with Chris Paul, being an all-time great, trying to, give him one more chance, give his best chance at getting the title. And there's all type of stuff out there. But, like I said, people just love to be snarky anyway. So you just got to ignore that stuff.
I mean, if COVID wasn't such an issue, imagine having NBA Finals in Phoenix. That's kind of warm, kind of warm climate. You can do your thing down there in Phoenix, So I may not be mad at that.
Nah, I wouldn't be mad at that either. Like, I was bugging, like, we had saw, because we were sharing stuff Saturday from the Sky game, so we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But we was sharing the pictures of all the big time basketball writers and stuff that was at the game and stuff, and that sort of threw me. Even though like I'm plugged into all this stuff, I'm like, the hell? Like, but that see, part of that is unfortunately is just the distance between when Chicago was last in the center of the basketball universe and everything. Like, I was like, you at back in the 90s, we was used to there a lot being a lot of tension at the end of the basketball year in this area. But now we got to live vicariously through the folks 90 miles away. And unfortunately, they still got to come down here and play. People got to still people go to Milwaukee to cover the game, but they want to come down to Chicago and play when they don't have to be in Milwaukee. That tells you something. But I love Milwaukee. But shout out to Milwaukee, man. It's a smaller Chicago, though. That's what it is in the end. But yeah. But it was just funny to me noticing that, like, because well, y'all gotta be take yourself off mute, man, and say something. I don't know what y'all doing.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say something, Drew. I thought you said, but anyway, yeah. I mean, I was kind of shocked. I was kind of shocked by that too. But I think what stood out to me the most was the fact that I can't recall that legendary list of basketball writers being at a WNBA game setting at one time either. Like, obviously they come to cover the Bucks, and they want to come to Chicago to play, but they're covering the Chicago Sky games, to see the talent that's here and support the WNBA. I don't know if I've seen that type of headline before. And that's even if that was the case, that's still very impressive to see that. Yeah, these are NBA writers and writers that cover that one of the biggest biggest professional leagues in the world, but they actually care enough to take the time to sit courtside at WNBA games to show support for the WNBA players and the women's side of basketball. I think that's something that's like an undertone message aside of what we're talking about.
It's
praising it too.
We said on the show before about how the players themselves in the NBA appreciate the WNBA.
Yeah.
And, that can extend to people who cover the league as well, us included. And it makes it all the more, it just undercuts everything all the more when you have people who have no skills or no appreciation for the game, who just are pigs, sitting on their recliner saying, dissing the women's game when they have never crossed anybody over in their life, So it's like, what do you to speak on anybody's game, So that's usually, those are usually the people who are most loudest and boisterous about, trying to diss the women's game, But it shows too, I think, how crucial the move was that the Sky was able to get Candace in the offseason stuff, because again, she's a star, she's a crossover star, and those writers know her and appreciate her as a singular force. I think it'll be more, that if she wasn't involved in that game, if she was still with the Sparks or something, maybe they would be there still, but it sort of enhanced that possibility that you would have her there, that you would have the sort of crowd overall there that you had, even though there were other things involved in that as well. But like I say, just the profile overall of the Sky, we knew at the time of the signing that it was going to be enhanced by Candace being on the team, and it's played out that way. The record hasn't necessarily been all that they wanted it to be, but they're still at 500 right now, 10-10 going into their break, and they like I say, played. We'll just finish up this talk on them before we go back into the NBA stuff. But they played a pretty cool game, I would say, just all competitively. All things considered, on Saturday against Washington, try to get the score, but it went to overtime. And the Sky made a nice run towards the end, to actually take a lead that Washington had. It looks like Washington was gonna, was in a good position to win that game. But Scott came back, surged back at the end and took the lead. But then they had, like, at the very end, a shot was taken. I forget, made the shot from outside, but it was an air ball, fell right to Tina Charles, who had an amazing game on Saturday, and she put it back up like just before the buzzer at the end of regulation and tied the game up, and then went to overtime. And in the overtime, Mystics pretty much handled things from there, and it was 89-85 final. But yeah, it was like a big crowd there. They had like primarily they had an AAU tournament, the girls basketball AAU tournament that was at McCormick Place, which as we all know is in the same complex as Wintrust Arena. So that day I was doing some running around, and I drove by like about a half hour before the game. And I found out texting on our chain that Chris was going to the game. And I was like, man, I kind of wanted to dip in too, seeing all this energy when driving down King Drive through McCormick Place. And like I said, a lot of people was heading to the arena, and it wound up being like 8,000 people there, and about a 10,000 seat arena, which Wintrust Arena is. So I say all that to say that it was the type of energy, and I saw some people posted later on Twitter. It's like there was the type of energy that you really would like to see be a permanent fixture at these games, at WNBA games. That the kind of energy and crowd support that they really deserve. And I guess the main variable was the AAU tournament, because you have a bunch of women and young ladies who were there who were into basketball. So naturally they went to the game. You're not going to have that at every Sky game or every WNBA game across the country. But, that type of rallying thing, I don't know how they could, do that more for more games across the country, but it'll be worth looking into, because I think there's an energy and there's a potential energy and that is there for the league that could really be shown more, because even with all the increased coverage that the league has gotten and everything, and the the nice plaudits and stuff in the media for them being on the right side of history, the right side of social progress and everything, it's still too many times you see those crowds at games. It's like a third of the arena, a quarter, and it's like, man, these ladies, they deserve crowds more like what we see at in Milwaukee or in Phoenix right now. These really energetic and crowds that are really into the game. So hopefully that could be the case at some point going forward, where at least they could fill up their stadiums. They don't all play necessarily in the same stadiums as their pro counterparts, as their male counterparts, I should say. But their smaller stadiums that they're playing in, like Wintrust compared to the UC. Let's see them fill these up and really have an engaged and energized audience that really makes them. I think when you have that sort of thing, it enhances the play. I think players react to that stuff, and it makes them do more in what they do on the court.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. I feel like it's the WNBA is growing, and by all accounts it's moving in that direction. Maybe at a snail's pace. But I wonder too. You brought up them playing the Mystics, and the coincidence of having the AAU tournament right at McCormick Place. I wonder when the Storm come to town or the Aces come to town, will you see that building get filled up a little bit more just because of the competition, and kind of like those are the two teams that the Sky going to have to tangle with, if they're going to do what the franchise have been looking to do since they, came to be.
Definitely. It could help. It could help definitely because you got star power on each of those teams, But I wonder how much is it going to expand past the real diehards, like the people who are really into the league, or make an effort, and that's definitely you want to hold that part of the audience down, and and provide for them. But see the thing. The NBA, of course, year after year, they get thousands of people in every arena each year who don't really give a damn about the game. They're there to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
That's a point that you want to get to, on a financial level if you're WNBA, because that means more money, more revenue for you. But that largely comes from being active and inventive in the way that you market your players. NBA players are marketed in many different ways. As they're marketed as leaders of social movements as well, but they're marketed as stars. They're marketed as fashion icons. They're marketed as actors and whatnot, and rappers and all these things. So that's the type of we got to see more of these facets of these women who are playing the WNBA and who they are, and make them into those same type of stars, multifaceted stars. Do people want to go see night in and night out for whatever reason too?
Yeah, I mean, they've got 3 All-Stars on that team. You think about if the Bulls had 3 All-Stars, what type of attention getting over there on the West Side. So, I mean,
right.
I don't know what their PR department needs to do, and it's not throwing any shots at them at all. But, I wonder, like you said, what can be done to try to help accelerate the growth of the game and just the sky's notoriety in town. As you spoke to earlier, a lot of that has to do with Candace Parker. How much longer is she going to be in Chicago? How many more years does she have to play? What's going to happen when she, decides to hang it up?
Yeah.
So,
and we talked about that at the beginning of the year, like we was previewing the season, like the Parker impact, and Josh has written about it and stuff, and I think in particular, if the Sky win, something with her here, Chicago is a place that could be ripe for and being a stronghold in the WNBA. For one reason, because we love basketball here, but 2, because I was thinking about this earlier. We have a lot of front runners here, and when a team wins, you get to see. You see, like I said, a lot more people rocking their gear and stuff, no matter how much they followed them beforehand. Like when the Hawks was winning, there's a lot more brothers in hockey gear when the Hawks were winning, to bring it back to the NBA. This is something I want to get into too, because I saw again, shout out to this brother, man. I mean no harm, but last chance all up in the Milwaukee game, man. It's like, bro, man, you Chicago all the way until Milwaukee gets in the finals, huh?
It's about exposure, man. I guess it's about exposure. It's
it's all about exposure, man. So, and but I'm saying he wouldn't be the only one though. Let the Bucks win this series. See how much more Bucks gear gonna be rocked in Chicago. You want to see it, and that's just how it is, But we love a winner. If we can grab our hands on a winner here, we do it, no matter how far they are, And but obviously going back to the Sky, I think if they bring some type of really negligible honor to the city, and really something that we could grab onto, I think they could definitely become like one of the places that the WNBA is known for. And I don't know how much of an effect that would have on the league as a whole, but it could be big. It could make a difference.
Yeah, I completely agree. And obviously, we talked about how the Candace Parker effect can really speed that process up. But I also think just from talking about exposing the game, especially to when you talk about to young women like that. Why I always wondered, in AAU season, you have teams that have sponsors and things of that sort to help pay for the jerseys, the tournament fees, travel fees, depending on the type of level your sponsorship is with the team, right?
Mm.
Why can't we utilize some of those same perks and connect it with the WNBA? So that way, if you were to travel to a city and that team, that home team that you're playing in, that city that you're playing in has a game, y'all can go to that. They should be
Organize that.
they
Yeah.
organize those things. So that way you can help increase the exposure while they're starting out young and showing them like, yo, this is like a real thing,
That's
and
good. Yeah, that's good thought.
like, especially if you're just talking about kids and even college students. I mean, I remember when I was in college, even though the Bulls were trash, we still had something where, you can get a student discount with the Bulls to get Bulls tickets at my school, depending on what it was. Like, why can't they work with? I don't
That's
know.
the best. I said that's the best time to get those
Right.
discounts on Bulls games, and you might, like say, your school or your job mate. A lot of jobs offer stuff like that. And,
Right.
That's. But when they suck, that's the best time to get them. When they good, they get stingy because they're like that. They good. There's a supply and demand thing working there. But when they suck, they trying hard as they can to get them tickets off.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I just wish that we could utilize some of those concepts to those WNBA players, so that way they can get that type of exposure as well, because they deserve it. And AAU doesn't just go for guys; it's women AAU teams as well, and for them to play at the rates and levels that they do, especially they're hosting tournaments like at McCormick Place or like these other type of places that they're playing in now, whether it's the Attack Center or something like that. Like, if they're in the city, you might as well just give them that exposure. They're right in the heart of downtown, especially if they're playing at Winchester Arena. You're in the heart of downtown. You get exposure of the city. Like, Chicago has a lot to offer with those things, and you combine that with the AAU teams that are coming down here every week or every weekend. Why not? Why not tap into that? Why not tap into those resources? Especially if you're willing to have sponsors that are willing to work with those AAU teams and bridge that gap. Man, I would take advantage of that in a heartbeat. So I don't know how else they can do it outside of that realm, maybe. But I'm just thinking in my mind from a player's perspective, an AAU perspective, and going through the AAU circuit. Playing in these different cities here and there and all these different tournaments. Like, if the WNBA have teams in those areas and these tournaments are at least close enough to these arenas, why not? Why not give them the access and the ability to go to those games through the sponsors or the teams or at least offer them a decent package, whatever the case may be, so that way it can be a potential a viable option for people to want to tend to, especially if they're traveling out of state.
Or you could have like a sort of a thing too, where the players sort of visit those tournaments during the day and interact and stuff. Like, for the WNBA, I would think more so than the NBA, because the NBA is such an established destination.
Mm-hmm.
The WNBA needs to feed more to the power that it has as a destination for young women who are getting into sports, at an early age. And I think for a lot of girls, it already is there for them. You could look at a girl like the girl who Avant-Garde, who won the spelling bee. She say she want to go in the WNBA, even though she's cold too. Yeah, the world is her oyster. She got a lot of options, but she want to get in the WNBA too, because she can hoop. So, you take advantage of stuff like that. You gotta. That's how you gotta, play yourself as an organization, marketing and promotion and stuff. But but I think, as I say, as a purposeful organization, being that sort of guiding light for young women athletes is that's a good way to go. And I think that's where the future of the WNBA really holds itself.
Yeah, even the merchandising, man. Like, new Nike jerseys that came out. The everybody was pining over those orange WNBA hoodies, the WNBA socks. Like there's a market for, or there's a strong need for these things, a desire to get these things, but I don't know how readily available these things are. You know what I mean? So
I think a lot of that stuff that got sold out pretty quick.
Yeah, that's who.
That's I guess that's stuff you over time you learn. You supply more.
Yeah.
Nike ain't running out of no supply. Really, they just got to produce them.
True.
So yeah.
It's getting there. The promotion is getting there. You see the Nike ads on TV and whatnot. I'm waiting to see. Like I know Maya Moore was with Jordan Brand. She might still be, but just more.
Yeah, she's involved in that.
Yeah, just actually we spoke about that a couple
weeks ago. When they unveiled that picture. Jordan was with the.
Yes, sir.
It was like 11 players. So it probably was like 10 active players in Maya Moore, I think.
Mm-hmm. So that goes to that route too. Speaking of just having an outlet, like young girls seeing like, man, my idol's got a shoe deal. She's playing in the WNBA. You know what I mean? Like it's certain things that for a long time were only reserved for the guys. Now much more space is being made available for our female athletes.
Yeah, and in the case of Moore's, she, was a great player, potentially all-time great player, but she didn't betray who she didn't betray her desires outside the court. Her passion outside the court too, and she's being rewarded for that too, being held up for that. Shout out to her. She was awarded at the ESPYs on Saturday, and she gave a very emotional speech there. I think they got like a 30 for 30 about her and her documentary about her and her efforts to free her now husband from prison. That's going to be coming out tomorrow. So that's definitely worth checking out. And I want to shout. I just want to shout her out and shout out Paige Beckers from UConn too for using her platform at the awards to say, let's big up the Black sisters. The Black women who are powering college basketball and WNBA as well. That's something that a person in her position don't have to do, and many don't. But she definitely say I'm a willing ally. So given what we was talking about last week with allyship, it's something we can't necessarily take for granted. So.
True, very true.
Yeah. So I'm trying to see, man. I don't know what's like I said about our possibles tonight, as I meant to change our titles and stuff for our show tonight. But that's how it is sometimes with these shows. I've definitely been there and before, but definitely I'm glad to talk with you guys again for another show here. We may wrap up within the next 15 minutes, given our change of plans. But I'm fine with that too, because I got to transition over to our next show coming up at 8:00. Me and Dave Evans got Sky Zoo on for In the Building. Oh, and just as I say that, our guest does come on. Our guest is going to be. So we will be going past 7:30 at least a little bit. But we're glad to have Mr. Sherrod Blakely on the show with us tonight, a veteran NBA writer, maybe the only NBA writer who wasn't in Chicago on Saturday night. But definitely a contributor to Bleacher Report, Ebony Magazine, and many others, and contributor, longtime writer for in Boston. Knows. I want to talk to you a little bit about Boston too. I have a couple of Boston questions for you, but definitely glad to have you on first time running with us here on Running with WARR. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, Sherrod. I'm just like I said, I've been wanting to have you on for a while, so I'm glad to have you on. Glad to talk, check back with you, and see that you're doing well.
I am. I'm doing very well. I'm doing better than Team USA, but that's another story.
Well, let's start with that then. We haven't gone into that much at this point. What was your reaction to that? Do you think that the guys are in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, first off, shout out to the motherland for getting that W. I mean, after the game, I love the fact that, the players obviously from Nigeria were excited about the win. But when you see Bam Adebayo, first thing he's doing is grabbing a couple of the guys from Nigeria and getting that photo op. That's love, man. I love to see that. But that being said, I think it was a wake-up call for Team USA. I mean, that's really what these exhibition games are supposed to be about. They're supposed to be a tune-up. Now, for Team USA, it's a wake-up call. For Nigeria, I think it's an awakening as to how good they could potentially be. And that, as you guys know, confidence is half the game with success. Feeling that you can do something often leads to you being able to do it. And Nigeria, they're going to head over to Tokyo. And listen, they're going to be popping the collars. They're thinking like, look, you may not know who we are before the game, but you probably going to know who we are when all said and done. Different level of confidence that they're walking into the building with. And if you're Team USA, you've been living kind of fat and happy for the longest time in the Olympics. So you needed a smack in the face to kind of just set yourself right that, we got to play, we got to ball. Now, obviously, the loss is not what you want. It's not what you hope for. But considering you only were rocking with each other for like 4 or 5 days, it's not like you can just roll out there and beat teams. So I think once they get to Tokyo, they're only going to get better and better as the games go on because they'll become more familiar. They'll develop chemistry, continuity, and do what we fully expect them to do, which is come back with that gold.
Yeah, still a couple of guys who are in the finals as well. So. Yeah, their whole roster isn't. They don't have everything figured out yet, and like you say, Nigeria has NBA talent. They have more NBA talent than they've ever had. They got a couple of those guys. I think that Bam was taking pictures with at the end of the game. Played with him on the Heat, so it's like he was showing love, and he probably was thinking too. Maybe I should have been on the Nigeria.
You see what I'm saying? Real talk. Bam, I'm gonna drop like 30 or 15 if I got the ball with them. I might get 10 with Team USA, maybe 12 on a good game.
Yeah, and to that end, I was watching them today. They beat Argentina pretty well this afternoon, and Okafor had 15 points. So like if Okafor could score 15, Bam could get 30 on that, on a given day there. So but shout out to Ja though. I'm glad that Ja got some playing time because he didn't get any time against USA. I guess maybe it was the matchup thing or something else.
Yeah, you never know about that type of stuff. But like whenever the Olympics stuff rolls around, it really does become more of a matchups game. And there are very few players that are so good that they're going to play major minutes, whoever the opponent is, because the talent on every roster is so deep. It's just like an all-star team on steroids for every country. You just never know who's going to be that one guy that matches up really well with a particular country, who you're going to roll with a little bit longer than someone else.
Yeah, I think speaking to that, you can't just – we've seen the days go by where you can't just roll the ball out and expect Team USA to just whoop up on their opponent. Like those days are gone, even though I think they had beaten Nigeria by 40 and 50 points the last couple of times they met them, but – as you said, these guys are just getting together. The whole group is not there. The continuity is still being figured out. Nigeria has some guys on that squad. They've got an NBA assistant coach, former head coach on that bench. So, we'll see what can happen. They still don't have, a ton of defense on that team outside of Draymond and Drew Holiday when he gets there. But like you said, it's a good wake-up call for them. We'll see what they do moving forward.
Hey, Sherrod, I want to ask you right quick, sort of get into the Boston section of the conversation. Like, what do you think about Tatum and his possibility to establish himself on the international level this summer? I've seen some reports about him. Boston has gone under its reconstruction in the front office and the coaching now. And, they got Nia Long is the first lady up there now and everything. I'm sure.
I'm so glad somebody brought her in the conversation besides me, because whenever I talk about the Celtics coaching situation and the changes they've made, I don't know how it happens, but somehow Nia Long just always find a way into the conversation. I don't know how.
I would imagine, yeah. I mean, I don't know how you could not be excited about that. You have to.
Listen. Anytime we, and when I say we, I'm talking about people of color get opportunities to be in positions of leadership. That excites me because I know that is not something that happens every day. Now, the Celtics, they've been a little bit different than a lot of NBA teams in that regard because they do have a track record, a good one, when it comes to having blacks in positions of leadership as far as head coaches. In fact, they were the first NBA team to have a black head coach. And I think he's number 6. And they've had 18 head coaches. So a third of the head coaches that you've had in your franchise have been black, which if you start looking around the NBA and percentage wise, it's not even close, really. The Celtics are right there if not, they're at the top. They're damn near close to the top when that happens. But I'm excited about the fact that this team needed a shakeup. They needed some new blood, whether it's the GM, whether it's coach or both, but they needed to do something to shake things up. And as far as Tatum is concerned, you, me, Popovich, it doesn't matter who the coach is. Tatum gonna go out there and get you buckets. He's that good. He is the closest thing the NBA has to Kevin Durant 2.0 as there is. But the difference between him and Kevin Durant, I think Kevin Durant is a better scorer. Tatum is a better shooter. And I think Tatum has a little bit more dribble drive to his game than Durant. Durant relies so much more, and people don't sleep on this. Kevin is 7 feet tall, and like a high IQ basketball player, he uses that length to his advantage. Tatum is legit 6'9". Wingspan is about maybe 6'10", 6'11". He doesn't have Kevin Durant length, but he attacks you like a ultra quick elite point guard. His ability to beat you off the drive, and his ability to score and shoot. He's going to be a perennial all-star. He will be a Hall of Famer one day. And people thought I was a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when I was saying this when he was a rookie. But, I don't tap myself on the back too many times. But that one, yeah, I felt very good about calling that one.
You should. You should, because he's really been impressive at times, and he was really impressive even at the beginning of this postseason. He just didn't have any help, So
yeah,
I'm really going to be interested to see how he does in Tokyo and what type of performances he may be able to show in that amongst that roster. That speaking of that roster and that all-star, sort of roster. Element that's going to be around him. Is there pressure or any other type of whispers that are going on in Boston regarding him sort of bringing in another player from this roster? Because in Chicago, we hope against hope that Zach LaVine is going to be able to draw somebody here in the next year or so. I don't think it's going to happen necessarily. Not to some people be saying like, oh, he gonna bring about 3-4 players. I'm like, where they gonna get the money to pay these players from for one? And I don't know, but are those type of discussions happening in Boston in regards to Tatum? Because you guys are like, as far as Boston go, as the Celtics go, like, I'm sure there has to be a lot of pressure in regards to the way that things looked a couple years ago and the way that they look now. It's like, where are these rings that we're supposed to have some more rings here?
You're supposed to have rings
in the garden,
Yeah. And folks around looking like DeAndre Jordan did a few years ago with that commercial, like, someone stole my rings. And then Chris was like, you ain't got no rings. That's kind of Celtics are kind of, when you look at the guys they have had over the last 3 or 4 years, weird injuries and illnesses and sicknesses, and like pretty much everything that could go wrong to derail your championship hopes happened to the Boston Celtics. And it's a reminder that there's so many things that go into winning a championship besides just having good players. You need to be healthy. You need to get some breaks that you have no control over. And you need to have at least 1 or 2 guys that kind of emerge. To me, I call them, the fellas from the Clay crew, guys that come out the earth that you don't see really being all that. But then when they emerge, you're like, damn, he is kind of all that. Tatum, I think part of his responsibility over there with the Olympic team is to gauge the interest of a Bradley Beal and come into Boston to see if some of the other guys that he's familiar with are interested in coming to Boston and vice versa. Because the way things ended with the Celtics this season, it left a sour taste in the mouths of a lot of people. And when you look at Jason Tatum, the fact that he was able to get you like 27 and 7, having dealt with COVID to the point where brother needed an inhaler at times on the sideline just to be able to function and do what he needed to do. When you have that type of season and you immediately go towards more basketball playing with the Olympic team, everyone is like, okay, this is cool if you can bring a body back with you. It's cool for you to hang out with the fellas and drop your 20 and whatever, but bring a body back to Boston when you're done. Because that, for I think the average fan, will make this feel like a worthwhile endeavor. And obviously, you've got all the talk of representing your country and how awesome that is and all that. Okay, that's fine and dandy. But you got this thing called your job, and you didn't do as well. You did a great job individually, but the team didn't do as well. And so that to me is where, Tatum being part of the Olympic crew, people are kind of torn about that because they like the fact that he's out there in opportunity, but they wish he would rest a little bit more so that he can be fresher for the start of next season. But if him being with that Olympic team means you get a better shot at bringing in a Bradley Beal or any of those elite players on that team, then it becomes so worth it to be out there balling on that global stage.
I was just thinking too about him and Beal, being from St. Louis and stuff.
Yeah, I used to be his babysitter.
Yeah, right.
I used to be Tatum's babysitter. I mean, Tatum's mom and Bradley's mom are like that. So that if Bradley is having just the slightest inkling of saying that I want to come to Boston, it's gonna get done. It's gonna get done because when your franchise player has one of his homies from way back in the day who want to join forces, and his homie is nice. You better figure out a way to make that happen. If that's what Bradley wants, because that's really what all this comes down to. It's not what Tatum wants. It's not what the Celtics want. Bradley Beal is going to be the one that dictates for Bradley Beal to go somewhere. He's earned the right to do that. He's got a contract that obviously is like most max player contracts. It's a huge chunk that you got to navigate and negotiate to get a deal done. But if he wants to come to Boston, they'll find a way. I mean, look at James Harden. He talked his way out of Houston, and Houston had nothing in the clip when they moved him. And they still got something in return. So,
right, it's not impossible.
No, it's not.
What I want to know though is why they both got sons named Deuce. Is that a St. Louis thing?
Look, man. Oh, I know. Tatum's son is just Jason Tatum Jr.
Okay.
And maybe that's a St. Louis thing that if you name your son after you, his nickname is Deuce, so that everybody will know that. Oh yeah, that's Deuce. That's Deuce Daddy up that ball. Like, okay.
Okay, that could be.
I never thought about that, but I'm thinking as we're like kind of spitballing this on the fly, I'm thinking that may have something to do with that. The fact that that's a St. Louis thing when you just name your son's Deuce.
Yeah, and anybody from St. Louis, feel free to let us know. Let us know that.
So in these schemes of Tatum trying to lure Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard to Boston, where does Jaylen Brown fit in? Because there was a point in the season where he almost looked like he was hooping a little bit better than Tatum, if you want to take it to comparison's sake.
It wasn't even like he was hooping better than Tatum. I saw from my own eyes. He was that good. His ability to score off the drive, hit the mid-range, hit the three-point shot, defend, rebound. He became that dude. When I was telling y'all earlier about, cats come up through the clay, he was that come up to the clay cat, balling like no one expected him to. And again, he was a number 3 pick, so you would think he would be a really good player. But I mean, this is the same brother that got booed by Celtics fans when he got drafted. Same cat that people have been talking about being on the trade block for years, not months, years. And all he does every year is get better than he was the year before. All he does is show up and eventually show out night in and night out. Listen, Jaylen Brown is a real one. And we didn't even talk about the stuff he's doing off the court as far as social justice and things of that nature. Jaylen Brown is as real as they get. And he's one of those guys that if you want Bradley Beal, if you want Damian Lillard, I know you're not going to give up Tatum. You got to give me Jaylen. We're not having a conversation about any of my cats unless he coming over here. And the Celtics, I think they realize this, which is why they're not all that eager to make a deal for like a Bradley Beal or a Damian Lillard, because they realize that they got a 23, 24-year-old all-star who is on paper your second best player.
Yeah.
I mean, you got two cats, both under 25, both all-stars, both signed to long-term contracts, and people talk about maybe we should trade one of them.
Yeah, see that's
add up to me.
That's what my from a Chicago perspective, not with any horse in the Boston race, looking at Tatum and Brown, I kind of see them, forgive the reference, I see them as a no baggage younger version of what Kawhi and Paul George could have been had they been young when they teamed up together. And that's a hard pairing to part with.
It is, and it's a hard pairing to nail. As far as like drafting guys that are that good that soon. I like Zach LaVine in Chicago. Now, Zach to me was a little bit of a late bloomer. And by late bloomer, I mean, he didn't just explode in year 1 or 2 where you can just say, man, that brother's an all-star. He was able to get buckets, but Zach wasn't defending nobody early on in his career. I mean, he like a lot of young players, he had that Olay defense. Like, here you go, Olay, do what you do.
It took him a couple of years while he was here. He had the Minnesota. He's already had like a couple of identities in the league. He was at first he was the slam dunk guy.
Yeah.
Now he had to become the bad guy on a bad team.
Right.
And now he's the good guy on a bad team. I should say. Now he's the good guy on a somewhat bad team.
And the thing I like about Zach is that he's at a point now where you have a general respect for his game. Like he's by no means is he a perfect player, but you respect the game that you get out of him night in and out. He plays with effort defensively now. He can make shots. He's not a guy that's just dunking the ball. He can splash that 3 ball in your grill. He puts it on the floor, and if you're not careful, he can go airborne on you and put you on a poster. And
he's got heart.
Give you the Sharpie before you hit the ground so you can sign that poster. Yeah. He's that good, but he needs help. I mean, he needs help.
I've brought this up to the guys before. Like, only thing separating Devin Booker from Zach LaVine at this point is Chris Paul and their roster. Like, I would love to see Zach LaVine play with a better facilitating guard and better 3-and-D options at his disposal, because I think he could be what we see Devin Booker is, even though the games aren't quite the same. I think you get some of the same performances that you got from Booker you would get from LaVine.
Yeah, and Zach is a little bit bigger than Devin too. I think Zach is a better scorer than Devin. Devin, I think, is a better shooter. And the thing about Devin is that, man, when he releases, he got the crazy elevation on his shots. I mean, he already has like low-key bounce that people be sleeping on. Zach, we know Zach got bounce. That's not even a discussion.
Oh, man.
But Devin's got low-key bounce, and I never really noticed it until like about halfway through his rookie season. And I saw him beat somebody off the dribble, and he just raised up, and I'm looking at the distance between the floor, his feet, and the ball still in his hand before he released. I'm thinking like, damn, he got hops. And so again, he's another guy that when you put him in the right situation with the right personnel around, you get a guy that is a dominant, NBA Finals MVP candidate right now. He's had a couple of bad games with the Suns, but the fact that the Suns are still there, he's a big reason for that. And Zach, I think Zach with the right type of playmaker around him, Zach could be a special, elite, lead a team deep into the playoffs kind of guy, because he's got the skills. It's just that the personnel around him doesn't really lend itself to a team that can make a deep playoff run, at least not right now.
And that's what, fans and observers like us are hoping for in Chicago, that they get that playmaker in this offseason, by hook or by crook. They get somebody who can steer this offense in a certain way and free up, free Zach up to just be that dominant scorer that we know he can be, and free up, Vucevic in so many ways as well too. On the pick and roll or whatever. We pick and pop, because Vucevic can do that a lot too. So there could be like, that's the feeling generally in Chicago. We're a good point guard away from being a dangerous team. So
Celtics say the same thing. Man, if we just had like a real good general lead to play, like old school cat who just basically you want to if you had like a Rondo like point guard, but not Rondo today, because Rondo today is still good, but he ain't that dude no more.
Yeah, nah.
He still got some juice left in the tank, but it's looking mighty thin right now. I would take him as a backup in a heartbeat, but as my lead guy, as my number one, nah, I'm good.
That'd be kind of cool if he finished this career back with y'all, actually, or if he finished it with us. Because
I was going to say
he should have helped us beat Boston. That
listen. When Rondo, if it wasn't for Rondo suffering that I think it was a hand or wrist, Chicago would have won that series. Chicago would have won that series because they were up 2-0. With both wins coming in Boston, heading back to Chicago when Rondo got hurt. All they had to do is split one at the crib, be up 3-1, and then you got 3 shots at winning one game. They were going to win that series. But when Rondo went out, it was just like, it's a wrap. Here comes a comeback. So, I mean, Rondo's a hell of a player. He's one of the more underrated playmakers of his generation. People think about the assists and all that stuff, and that's great. But the thing I love most about Rondo was when the lights were brightest, and you know what that is. That's the playoffs. When your nickname is Playoff Rondo, not preseason, not Pandemic Paul, but Playoff Rondo.
Nobody questioned it either, yeah.
No, we didn't question it like we did. Why y'all call him Playoff Rondo? It was more like, oh, yeah, I see why y'all call him Playoff Rondo. Okay. Yeah. He shows up and shows out. Much respect to Rondo.
Sherrod, do you think because it seems like hiring point guards is the norm now? Do you think Rondo has a future as a coach?
I hope so. Because Rondo, here's the thing about him. Rondo is one of the most intelligent athletes I've ever covered, and I've covered major college basketball in the ACC. I've covered, obviously the NBA. Rondo is one of the most intelligent leaders I've ever been around, and what makes him special is that he recognizes what the game needs from him. And he recognizes what the game needs from those around him. And more times than not, he's going to put everyone in position where they can be their best in the role that they serve best. And that, to me, translates well as a head coach, because that's essentially what you're doing as a head coach. You're putting the pieces on the board where they need to be in order to win. You're not trying to just check everyone. You're trying to checkmate and win the game. Rondo has that ability. I'm looking forward to when he becomes a coach, because whatever team he's coaching, they're going to be good. They're going to be well coached. They may not win as much as fans will want, but it won't be because of coaching. So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm worried he's going to be like a Scott Skiles, though. He'll turn every team around in 2 years, but that third year, they're going to be like, man, the hell with this dude.
That's kind of the thing with like Jason Kidd. Because when you start looking at his trajectory as a coach, every team he's coached, they've won more games the year his first year than they did the year before he arrived. But it's that second year where things get a little squirrely. Jason Kidd, the Messiah, takes that Messiah thing a little too far, and all of a sudden, he start walking around and he's like wobbling a little bit, and then you realize he's got that bobblehead mentality right now because he had a lot of success in that first year, so he's feeling himself, and next thing you know, the team struggles because his ego gets in the way, and again, he's a great coach in that first year. If I had a bad team and I had a coaching opening, I'm trying to hire Jason Kidd for 2 years. He's going to want 4. But I really want him to be there for 2, because in 2 years, he's going to turn things around where we're going to be a moderately competitive team. And then he's just going to start acting a fool. And then I'm going to have to fire him. But I will have that foundation set. So that's, to me, that's the back and forth you have to deal with as a front office exec when you bring Jason Kidd in the fold.
Yeah, that Dallas is going to be a team to watch again with all that happening next year with Kidd becoming the man down there. But we have to wrap up pretty soon, man. I got another thing I got to do at the top of the hour. I'm really glad you came on with us, Sherrod. And but I want to get before we wrap up, I want to get your thoughts, of course, on the finals and everything. But before that, I'll ask right quick: were you at that game that Booker scored 70 in
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah, he was giving him the business. Business. And to me, it's funny seeing him and Jay Crowder as teammates because Jay was so upset about that. I got a T-shirt around here. I can't find it right now, but it says
was he mostly scoring on Jay that night?
What's that?
Was he mostly scoring on Jay that night?
He was scoring on the whole team. Of course, he was that dude at the checkout line where everyone is getting served. Come on through. You got 3 eggs and a cup of fruit. Yep, I got you. Come on. You got what? You got steak and some chicken. Yep, got you too. He had everyone just kill him. Now, the thing about Booker that I loved was that I didn't realize how tough this dude is. He is a tough dude. I mean, he goes face to face with the league MVP, ready to go. And I'm thinking like, Jokic is not the dude you want to go with, and it's not because of him. It's because of the family. Jokic is about that life. Don't let the soft pudgy frame fool you. He's about that life, and whatever he's not about that life, he got family who's always in the building. Who is so?
Yeah, they've been through some wars for real.
Yeah, literally yes. And then Booker, take the headbutt from Patrick Beverly, got broken nose in 3 places. So what did he do? He keep balling. Much respect, and he likes old school cars, old school like from the 60s and 70s. Old school with his rides, old school with the way he plays games. Don't mind getting a little blood in his face and keep balling. Ready to scrap with a guy who's a good 6, 7, 8 inches and about 50, 60 pounds heavier. Knowing that dude got family in the building, he don't care. Much respect to Devin Booker.
But they did nothing but pump Denver in that series. That the Suns and 4 guys on the court, off the court, they were just punking Denver every which way.
I as someone who was in Detroit at Malice at the Palace, I don't condone anybody fighting in the stands. But if I'm a fan and my team just won, and you coming at me, and you trying to sucker punch me, oh hell yeah! Suns and 4, ain't got the ass whip. Hell, absolutely. That was one of the few times I've ever been like, okay, this is all right. I don't like seeing fighting among fans, but that was the exception to the rule. And the fact that Devin Booker was the first player on that Suns team trying to find out who that dude. I got tickets for you, bro. I got tickets for you next game. I got your Suns in 4. That's a real
no problem co-signing that behavior.
Exactly. Devin is a real one. Much respect. Much respect.
What do you think about the series though so far?
Suns in 6.
Suns in 6.
I wrote about this a few months ago about Phoenix as being a team. They may be more ready. I wrote about this for Bleacher Report. They may be more ready to win a championship than people are giving them credit for. And I wrote the story thinking like, it may happen. But I talked with their GM, James Jones, at the time. And I asked him flat out, like, are you guys ready to win a chip like now? And he went through some of the things that have to happen in order for that to happen. But there was a confidence that he was speaking to me with that I was thinking like, damn, either this brother is like selling this stuff real, real good, or he's like feeling this. And watching them play, they feeling it. And the fact that you got, black man as your GM, who, by the way, was executive of the year, black man as your head coach, who, by the way, was the coach of the year by the Coaches Association, and you got OG running the show, Chris Paul, who's that OG from everybody's neighborhood who, even though the game supposedly is passing by, you put him on your team, and all of a sudden you're in the park all day. You're balling all day.
Yeah, ain't nobody getting you off the court.
Exactly. Ain't nobody taking you off the court because you got OG. You got the original OG. So I love the way that Phoenix team is balling. I love the fact that they have a different kind of vibe and chemistry. And I just think they're better than Milwaukee, to be honest with you. I do. That's why I got them in 6.
Me and Drew got them actually in Milwaukee in 7. So I'm sticking by it. But, Josh got Suns in 7 too. So he's with you.
My man Josh. Shout out to my man Josh.
But I could definitely see the Suns in 6. And like you say, they got a lot to root for, especially, in the case of being, having black men in power on that team and really changing a lot of dynamics in the league. Right quick, what do you think? We talked about this a little earlier about some people being down on the matchup, and we all feel that look, in Booker and Giannis, you possibly are seeing two guys who could become regulars in the finals over the next 10 years. And, if you're really about the NBA, you should be encouraging that and encouraging that turnover, that future, instead of, whining about LeBron and whoever not being in the finals. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think fans in general like to be comfortable with what they're familiar with, and they're familiar with LeBron. They're familiar with Steph. That's that's that comfort food for them this time of year. But Devin is a delicacy. Giannis is something that's yummy if you really want to sink your teeth into it. And you're right; they do have the potential to be there for many, many years to come. At some point, this had to happen. Because at some point, Larry Bird couldn't go to the finals every year. So Michael Jordan had to jump into this fray. Michael Jordan couldn't be that guy forever and a day. And then you got LeBron. And you start going. I mean, this is part of to me, NBA basketball is a relay. And it's a relay that's always going. And at some point, somebody's got to pass the baton to someone else. It may not be as quickly as some fans may want it. It may be longer than some fans think it should be. It may be shorter. But that baton is going to be passed. And right now, we're seeing LeBron pass that baton to Devin, pass that baton to Giannis. I think Paul George and Kawhi, they're gonna be back in the mix in a hot minute too. If Dallas can ever figure out who they can get to play, with their guy, they could be in the mix. Boston, you got 2 All-Stars in Boston, as I mentioned earlier, both under 25. So there's a lot of guys that have the potential to carry this league going forward. And that to me is a beautiful thing about this playoff series. And I didn't even mention Trae Young.
Oh yeah.
Woo! Yeah. I mean, hair issues aside, Trae Young is the hot one, man. He's that dude. He is another one in that dude category. What
my man Mackey said on the ESPYs the other day that Trae looked like a ball of hair that fell on the barbershop floor and came to life and started walking off.
I felt so bad that I was cracking up about that joke. I felt really bad about that because I love Trae Young. Trae is one of my favorite players to watch. But when Mackey said that joke, I'm thinking like, damn.
I know he didn't write that.
Though. He's right. That's why I felt so bad about it. Because if I felt that he was doing Trae wrong, I'd be, man, forget that cut. That ain't funny, man. That ain't funny. Actually,
yeah.
As someone who once upon a time used to have hair that fell to the floor, I remember what it looked like because I haven't seen it fall in a long time. And yeah. I mean,
it's definitely the case. I'm wondering how long it's going to take Trae to go over the team Baldy, but we'll see if that happens.
We always got room on the ship. We always got room on the ship. Tell y'all a funny story. Richard Hamilton, when I was in Detroit, he used to get on me and Chauncey because we both had the ball head. And we were just like, yo, you keep cracking on us. You see what happened. Maybe 2.5 years later, all of a sudden, his runway started to come in shape. And so then he was just like, okay, we got to get rid of the runway and just have a nice, clean landscape. I'm like, see, that's what you get. That's what you get.
Which was crazy because he had the braids for so long.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Braids the ball.
That's the worst though when you got the braids and you try to hold on to that hairline.
Because we all know there's that 1 or 2 dudes that we know from around the way who got braids that start like in the middle of their forehead.
Yeah.
In the middle of the head, you be like, damn, bro, seriously? Just let that go.
Looking
just
like
come on the T-ball
and take the helmet off.
Yeah, exactly. Like you got a ski cap on, but you only cover half of your head. Oh, that's your hair. My bad. My bad.
Yeah, man. I gotta go, man. But we gotta bring you back to talk more about hair, and we gotta talk to you about being in the palace during the Malice in the Palace. We gotta hear you talk about that firsthand. But Sherrod, really, really appreciate you coming on, man. We had a lot of fun with you for this short time, and like I said, we definitely love to have you back on.
Cool. You know how to find me. I'll be around.
Yeah, tell the people how to find you if you want to.
Oh goodness, Twitter Sherrod Blakely, one word, ASHERROD BLAKELY. Facebook. I'm on Twitch, but I'm not really on Twitch. I write for ebony.com. I have a weekly column with them. Bleacher Report, I have a story in there every week. If you enroll at Boston University, I might be a teacher there because I teach at Boston University as well. What else? There's a couple other jobs that I'm forgetting about that I do. Oh, I do some stuff with CLNS Media where I host some couple of shows for them. I also have a podcast, The A-List with Sherrod Blakely and Kwani A. Lunis. We actually we broadcast every week, and this week we're gonna have a young woman on the show by the name of Mirren Fader. She just wrote a book about Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yes, yeah.
And so that's like a huge get because obviously Giannis is kind of nice right now. So she's gonna be on our podcast this week. That'll drop like Thursday. No, Wednesday or Thursday. My producer he takes care of all that stuff. And but yeah, so those are the things that are coming to mind right away. But I know I'm forgetting 1 or 2 streams of income, and I feel bad about that. But they're not in the top.
Going hard, man. You going hard. I like that, man. So yeah, you see Sherrod. If you see Sherrod, he working somehow. So if you see him,
got you. I see y'all coming. I gotta keep running. That's how that goes.
Well, you know what I'm saying? You got to leave a job or 2 for us, man.
Trust. I do. Trust. Listen, when I may be on the trail, but there are crumbs that I'm leaving as I go by. Trust me.
I appreciate that, man. Thank
absolutely.
you. Thank you very much for coming down. Drew, Josh, man. Anything else y'all want to say before we head out?
No, sir. We Gucci. Just watching this Olympic game. I think USA is up right now, halftime. So,
okay.
I'm going to follow the Olympic team along the way and just see how this team turns out because, this
who they playing tonight? Australia, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Joe Ingles, Patty Mills, them cats.
No business.
Yeah, it's wild how much talent is spread out throughout the real NBA talent is spread out throughout the world now. So
it's a global game now, man. You can't just go to Compton and Brooklyn and Georgia. I mean, it's you can go to Georgia, the one in Atlanta, and the one across the lake.
Right. Yeah. All right, Sherrod. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you.
No problem.
Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of these finals and everything. And like I said, we'll have you back on. We'll try to have you back on soon.
Cool. All right, brothers. Have a good night. Good talking with y'all.
Yes, sir.
All right. And I'm heading out myself. I gotta switch over to my other show with In the Building. Feel free to stay here on YouTube, WARR Media on YouTube for our exclusive interview with Sky Zoo. And that's it for me for now. That's it for us. We'll be back probably sometime next week, I guess. Or we'll see how the series goes. Maybe we have to come back sooner than that. I don't know, but we'll be checking up definitely again before the end of the finals. And that's it for now, man. In the meantime, y'all keep bouncing and keep tuned here on YouTube on WARR Media. All right.